Hi everyone, welcome to another Craftin Desert Divas new release highlight video, this time featuring the nested hearts. When you first receive your dies, they're going to come connected by these small metal tabs. You're going to want to separate these dies from one another. So in order to do that, you can do that one of two ways. You can use your wire snips and gently snip that wire in between each one of the dies, or you can bend the wire back and forth between the two dies, and that's going to release them from one another. Now you'll want to do this for each one of the dies, and once you're finished, you will have 3 separate dies in this die set. Here's a closer look at all of them. Now this die set can be used in any die cutting machine that accepts wafer thin dies. I'm going to be using my Big Kick today and the normal sandwich that I use for all of my wafer thin dies. That is my multi-purpose platform with both tabs down, 1 cutting plate, a piece of cardstock. Then I'll go ahead and put in my wafer thin die. Make sure that cutting edge right there with the raised edges facing the cardstock. And then I'll put my final cutting plate right on top and crank this die through the machine. Now once I've run this through, this die did release very easily from the cardstock, but if you have any problems, these dies do have that little hole where you can stick in a pin or your quick sticks tool and quickly release the cardstock. Now let's take a closer look at each die in this set. I'm going to start with the large scalloped heart. Now not only do you get this large scalloped heart frame with the Craftin Desert Divas stitching along the edge, you also get the center of that, which is this gorgeous heart. Now the stitching on this die is the signature Craftin Desert Divas stitching, as with all the other dies in this set, and you also get that nice scalloped frame that you can use for die cut inlay. There's a closer look at all the die cuts you get with that one pass through your machine. Now moving on to the medium heart in this set. This is a nice solid frame. Now this frame is about 1/4 of an inch wide, and it does have the signature stitching on it as well. And then you also have the inside heart, and of course you do get the outside cutting edge as well, which you can use for more die cut inlay. There you can see you've got that nice heart opening that you can add your frame to and create a gorgeous shaker card. Here's a closer look at that die cut and all the cuts you get with one pass through your machine. Now moving on to the smallest die cut. This is just like the die before. It's got that 1/4 inch frame that does have the signature stitching on it. There you can see it's just a little bit smaller than the medium sized die in this set. And you also get that great little heart on the inside that you can use as an accent, or you can do beautiful die cut inlay with it as well. Now also you do get that outside cutting edge again, which is going to be great for shaker cards or more die cut inlay. Here's a nice close still shot of that smallest heart die, the stitching detail, and the inside of that. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the measurements. Now on this chart you have the measurements of the actual die cut itself. Then also I have the frame width, which is the actual width of the frame lines. Then I also have on the left hand side the inside or the opening measurements, which is how big of an opening you're getting inside that frame. That'll kind of help you get an idea of what kind of stamps will fit in there. And again, this chart's going to be available in the Craftin Desert Divas shop if you want to take a closer look at it there. I also wanted to give you a closer view of how these dies stack up against one another. So here's a comparison of all of them inlaid into each other. And now that I've shown you all the details about the dies and how they work, let's go ahead and make a card with them. Here's the supplies I'll be using on the card today. So if you have any questions about the supplies I might have used on the card today, you can come back here and reference this list. So the first thing I'm going to do is some die cutting with the medium and smallest hearts in this die set. So starting off, I'm going to use the medium and the smallest heart on the craft cardstock. I'll cut the medium heart once, the smallest heart twice. And then from hot pink, I'll cut the largest heart once, the purple cardstock, the smallest heart once, and the yellow cardstock, the smallest heart once as well. Now I am keeping both the frame and the inside portion, and that's going to give me 2 cards with one pass of my die cutting machine. Now I'm starting off with pieces of white cardstock. These measure 2 3/4 by 5.5 inches. Now this is plain white cardstock. You could add a border to this if you wanted to with any of the Craftin Desert Divas border dies, but I'm going to keep this nice and simple and just keep them straight lines. Now I'm starting off with my largest heart right in the center, and I am using all of my craft hearts from the inside on this first piece of cardstock. Then on both sides of this heart, I'm going to go ahead and place down the smallest hearts. I'm using wet glue for this. This is just going to give me a little bit of playtime to where I can kind of move these dies around to get them perfectly aligned and centered on this piece of cardstock. So I'll go ahead and place that heart down on the right hand side, and each time I do this I'm going to go ahead and throw an acrylic block right over the top to put some pressure on it, hold it down while I move on to my next heart. Now up until this point everything was relatively easy to put down, but this is a pretty graphic card, very clean and simple, so I want these to all be aligned. So in order to get this last heart perfectly kind of straight across from the one I put on the right hand side, I'm going to go ahead and first place it down. I'm not going to press it at all, I just want to get it in place a little bit. Then I'll go ahead and grab my T-square ruler. I'm going to line this up with the left hand side of my cardstock and also the bottom of that heart. Then I'll go ahead and push it down right up until the point of that heart meets where the point on the right hand side is, and that's going to make sure that they're exactly the same height on both the right and the left hand side. And then I'll also just eyeball it to keep them fairly symmetrical where they overlap that largest heart as well. Now on this next piece of cardstock, I'm going to put the colorful centers down on this one. So I'm going to start off with the largest right in the center, and that happens to be the hot pink color. Now I just chose these randomly. You could always switch these colors up. You could make it more of a boy themed card and use some boy colors, or you could switch up and use your favorite color combination. It really is up to you. So I'll go ahead and start with the hot pink right in the center, and then I'm going to do the same exact process on this card. I'll go ahead and put some glossy accents right on the back of that purple heart. And then I will place this one, I'm just going to start on the left hand side this time. It really doesn't matter which side you start on, you just want to make sure that you get that final heart nice and even on the other side. Again, I'm going to place that acrylic block right on top to hold everything down and in place while I work on my last one, and that's going to be the yellow. Now again, I will use my glossy accents here as well. Go ahead and place that right on the back there. And again, I'm going to pull out my T-square ruler and line that up with the purple heart to make sure the yellow one is the same height as well. Now, if you don't have a T-square ruler, these are only a couple of bucks, but if you do not have one, you can always go in with a ruler first of all and make a straight line across. That way you know they're going to be even on both sides, or you can use your regular ruler and do it with that as well. I'll go ahead and line that yellow heart up on the right hand side, place it down, and one final time I will put that acrylic block on just until everything dries. Now this next part, I'm going to go ahead and put on frames. I'm only going to show you one card this time because it really is more of the same on both cards. Now on this one, I'm going to put the colored frames over the craft inside hearts. So I've put some foam tape on the back of these and just kind of lined it up on any side there you see, just kind of randomly put it down enough to where it would hold up if it went through the mail. So I'll take the backing paper off of this and then I'll flip it right over and line it up with that biggest heart in the center. Now you want to make sure that you put the first heart down that you put first with the inside of the heart, and in this one it happens to be that center heart. So the first frame I want to put down is my largest heart frame right over that center portion. So I'll line this up. You want to look straight through, line it up, make sure you don't have any white peeking out on any of the sides, and this should line up perfectly. And then once that's in place, I'll go ahead and move on to the right hand side, and I'll go ahead and place my yellow frame down on that side. And on this one, you want to make sure you don't have any foam tape where it lines up over the pink frame, because in that case it's going to go a little bit higher. So just make sure that you kind of leave an opening right there. And then I'm going to do the same exact process with that final purple frame on the left hand side. Again, I want to make sure I don't have any foam tape where it meets the pink frame, so it doesn't have any like off balance or out of proportion heights there. I want to keep everything at the same level. So I'll place that right down on top. And then on the top one, I did the same exact process just with all of the craft frames that I had. So here you see I've got 2 panels ready to be put on card bases now. And all it took was a little bit of die cutting, and I was able to use both pieces for 2 separate cards. There's that craft with the colorful frame, and then the colorful inside hearts with the craft frames. Now I also did some more die cutting with the sending die. I die cut those from some white cardstock. Then I've got craft mats that measure 3.5 inches, and then I've got 2 side folding A2 card bases that are made from white cardstock. I'm going to put these cards together in the exact same way. So the first thing I did was put some double-sided adhesive on the back of the white panels, and then I'll place them on the craft mats. Now, this has that liquid glue on the back, so they do get a little stiff. I like to kind of bend them back and forth to get them in shape and get a little bit of that warp out of there. And then I'll place it down on its craft mat. Then the craft mat, I also have some double-sided adhesive on the back of those. I'm going to remove the backing paper and place that right in the center of that A2 side folding card base that I made from white cardstock. Exact same thing on this next card, exact same process, just remove that backing paper and center it on my A2 card base that I made from white cardstock. Now I wanted to keep the clean and simple theme going here, so I die cut that sending die from white cardstock, and then I'm just going to place a little bit of glossy accents where it's going to meet up with those frames, and I will lay that right over those heart frames. There you can see I'm just going to place that right down, and again you can see it's just going to attach where you have that D meet the top of the frame. You've got the N and the G on the right hand side, and then the S and the E on the left hand side. So you do want to be pretty generous, and you want to make sure that you use a very strong adhesive, because that's going to be all that's holding it in place. I'll do the same thing on this next one, and I'm using glossy accents here. If you wanted to have this stand out even more, you could go back and put a coat of glossy accents on top of the sending word, and that's going to help it pop out as well. Now to finish off that sentiment, I'm going to stamp on the inside of the card so I don't make the outside too busy. And on the inside I'm using the Sending Sentiment stamp set. I'm going to stamp hugs and kisses, and this is a builder sentiment set, so you can create any sentiment you want on the inside. I'm going to stamp this in some black dye ink, and I did the same exact sentiment on both cards. Once that was done, it completely finished off the card. Here I'm going to give you a nice closer look at both of these. I've got my craft hearts with the colorful frames and my colorful hearts with the craft frames. Now it doesn't get much simpler than this. You get 2 cards with 1 pass of your die cutting machine. This is a great way to make several Valentine's Day cards all at once, and if you wanted to make it simpler, you could even not add the dimension on the frames and keep it very flat. The rest of the Craftin Desert Divas design team has been very busy with this new die set as well. Here a look at their finished cards. Maureen used the medium heart in this set as a frame to really help her hugs and kisses image pop away from the Hearts Galore stenciled background, which is just gorgeous as well. Michelle used the largest scalloped heart to die cut felt to frame out her little adorable images from the Hugs and Kisses stamp set. EK used the largest scalloped heart as well to frame out her sentiment all on this gorgeous stenciled background using the brand new Hearts Galore stencil as well. Janie used the medium heart in this set to create and also frame out this adorable little heart shaker on her card. And Tony used the medium heart to do some two-tone stamping and coloring with the brand new Hugs and Kisses stamp set as well. This new die set will be available on December 8th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Craftin Desert Divas online shop. That link will be in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching today, and don't forget to subscribe.